It was a pleasant conversation. But the main thing that he emphasized to me was, the main purpose of his call was to say very frankly to me on private line that the Chinese were getting way ahead of the United States in many ways. And not only economically, but in some other very important ways as well. And that was Saturday night. I taught Sunday school the next morning, and I told the Sunday school class that I replied to President Trump that in the last number of years since 1949, when we normalized relations, the United States had been at constant war with Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Yemen and many other countries. Almost constant war. And the expert economists estimated that we had spent about $3 trillion on those wars. A trillion is a million, or 1,000 billion, by the way. So you see what an enormous amount of money that is for the United States to spend on what? On war. China has not been in combat with anybody since 1949. And they have that, you might say, that same $3 trillion. They have a very flourishing economy to spend on things good for the Chinese people. I'll just give you 2 or 3 examples right quick. One is that they have 18,000 miles of high-speed railroad. How many miles do we have? How many are we likely to have 20 years from now? Who knows? A child born in Beijing now, with all of its smog, has a life expectancy of 5 years more than a child born in Washington, D.C. I won't go, I got a list of things, but I won't go into them. But the point is that with the carrying out of the teachings of God's kingdom, you see, we are not only better off morally and ethically, but we're also much better off, in our daily lives. China expects to announce in the near future that there's no more severe poverty in China. They have spread the wealth of China from the East Coast all the way to the Urals. And they're making very rapid progress in that. And as you have heard, to your concern perhaps, the Chinese are likely to be #1 superpower economically within the next few years. Well, let's look at what it means to be a superpower. What do you think it means to be a superpower?
Lots of money.
I'm sorry?
Lots of money.
Lots of money? Yeah, we have lots of money.
Yeah, a healthy and educated population. Yes.
A healthy and well-educated population, all right?
Yeah, best education.
Best education, that's good.
Economically sound.
Economically sound. Obviously, the most powerful military, I don't argue with that.
Competition to be the hegemon.
To do the what?
To be the hegemon, to be the top dog.
Yeah, to be the top dog, right. Well, suppose we were a superpower as judged by God Almighty. I would say that anyone on earth with a prospect of conflict in that country, a civil war, a war with another country, would say, why don't we go to Washington, D.C.? Because I know we can find peace there. That's the most peaceful superpower on earth. And somebody mentioned environment a while ago. Suppose you were worried about an encroaching ocean or increasing storms and fires. You'd say, why don't we go to Washington? Because they are the leaders in the world in taking care of our environment. Well, if you were being abused by your own government, you would say, why don't we go to Washington, D.C.? Because they know how to honor human rights in all its aspects. Or if you were concerned about being treated unequally, you would say, why don't we go to Washington? Because under that Constitution and laws and customs, everyone is treated the same. Does that bring a different concept of superpower to you? Not just who has the most powerful military, but who is a champion of the finest things in life. Nothing fancy, just peace and environment and human rights and equality. All those are teachings of Jesus Christ.